a lot of our people, unfortunately, pass a lot of that off as just science fiction.
And it's the courses too. And here we are.
Because you find that most of the ones that really get into the research, the so-called, some people discount it altogether, but the ones that get into it that are melanated or Moors, they're labeled as some kind of freak or they're crazy or something. But there is a reality, I believe it's coming into play. We were looking at something today that I thought was very, very interesting. That from 1956 to 1978, to June 21st, 1978 to be exact, the ending date, there was a large group of what we would call extraterrestrials that were living amongst people in Italy. They had gone to different countries, but they had not come to the United States. They were living amongst them. They were living also, they had undersea living and underground, but they were also blending in. And the reason why they said they had come, they were really they were coming out of love to kind of help the people. And I thought it was interesting that they didn't come to us. And I figured, we as melanated people probably have been so compromised.
Well, see, now let's look at this. What is the nature of the social politics with people in North America, particularly us?
We've been given a superiority over
yes.
everyone else when it seems like that's the biggest lie.
Yes. We have taken the side of Rome against the world, and it is known. They make movies like Red Tails, the Buffalo Cowboys or something like that. Soldiers.
Yeah.
And it is known that these Asiatics here have helped Rome conquer the world even against their own selves, and then come back and start what they like to call colored and Negro marching groups, talking about rights and liberties that they don't have. But they didn't fail to go around the world, to and fro this earth, to help this Roman devour nations, which is what's been going on. Hasn't their whole history been bombing here, bombing there, stealing the gold here, stealing the gold there, stopping African leaders who are trying to do satellites to get off of Google, etc., like Gaddafi and people like that? Yes, isn't that true? Isn't it that these same people were criticizing anyone who criticized Rome, like Malcolm? And then after they murder them, we want to talk about how great men they are after the fact, so we don't have a good track record. So it's not like someone who wants to start solving problems on this planet would look at some of these people here of Canaanite Moabite descent who claim to be black and are not, to look to them to start solving problems when they keep supporting Rome, who is the problem.
Which is my point, that understanding their relationship, the Dogon's relationship, that the Dogon has such a great relationship with these extraterrestrial.
Now, aren't many of our people here still Twa?
Yes.
Oh, yes, they are. But they deny it, don't they?
Yes.
Are these people here Phoenicians?
Absolutely.
Don't they deny it?
Yes.
Oh, well, duh. We, the Asiatic African people, been dealing and interfacing with people and beings, humanoid and otherwise, from this particular solar system and some outside the solar system. It has been the literal life history of humanity on the planet, not some recent occurrence issue. Some hostile, some less so. What you have actually, when you're talking about the German Dutchman, and they'll use this as a marker, although we can go into some more detail, but just look at the markers. When I say marker, I mean that they admit to. the German Dutchman called Dwight D. Eisenhower, making some agreements to if they give them some of the technology to help conquer us in order that they can master the world and they can have some of the people. That's where that really begins from. So what you have is really the hybrid Europeans making some agreements with dark side, or what you would call less than amicable outsiders, put it that way. And the truth of the matter is that's what you're dealing with now. And this is why anything concerning crafts, devons, dimensional layers, dimensional planes, etc., that is actually part of the culture, never not been part of the culture, that they've been hiding from the people, and they've been selling the people on the planet for benefits, for technology to conquer the planet. And now that they're starting to be exposed, they want to kill the people off. That's really what's, to keep it short, that's really what's going on. That's really what's been going on. Now, we're trying to avoid to go there in some sense because people don't have a lot of background into the human experience on this planet.
Right. They
don't know their history. They think their history is some leader, some great African leader who ruled Egypt and stuff like that. It never dawns on them ancient Mesopotamia, Sudan, Nubia, Eritrea, which is really the Garden of Eden. Eritrea is the Garden of Eden.
Eritrea.
Oh yeah. You know, and it's in the book. It's just they don't know how to read the book. When you look at the book, they're looking at anthropomorphic stories, but Rome, even when they was doing the Septuaginta, when they hired the 72 scholars to alter the book out of the original form, that's why it's called the Septuaginta, which septa means seven, and actually was 72, but seven is the principle of the culture of the Sabian Moors and Sephardic Moors, etc., in ancient Eritrea, ancient Egypt, ancient Nubia, Sudan, etc. Because remember, as you look at the culture and you look at the political borderlines, jurisdictions that you see today, they did not exist. Are we clear?
I mean, they overlaid everything with.
That's the point. They overlaid. They call drawing the lines. As a matter of fact, they call it that.
Drawing the line. I'm just going to interject a question as a question here. Is our language Latin?
Our language is all the languages. This is what you're going to find, and this is why lately, as the people have evolved, and as the Romans have accelerated their attacks on humanity and becoming more and more open, which means they've always been attacking us. They're hiding it less now, if you understand, because so many masks have been pulled off. They're not wasting their time doing Negro programs. They're just bluntly abusing the people, bluntly, and it only confuses people. But the deal of it is, restate the question because I want to try to be more specific to what they're asking. But I need to give them a cover. Is our language
Latin?
I need to give them a cover.
I'm not sure whether he's asking whether it means our original Latin, one or the one we have
what
now.
You're calling Latin, German, English, French are all derivatives of Bantu, Mandi linguistic, Berber forms in Asia, Africa. They are not the hybrid Europeans. They are all your languages. That's the truth. And it's sort of like to explain the dynamics of the impersonation that's going on. It's expressed in the Bible as them claiming to be Jews and are not Jews. That must be understood on multiple levels. It has not to do with religion and the concept that people have been told religion is. It has to do with them trying to kill us off and claim the culture. That includes the languages. They didn't have language. They are hybrids. This is why they have a problem. Pay attention. Let's look at this. For all of you, let's back down, chill out, and listen to what I'm saying to you very carefully. The Son of God gives everlasting life to all beings on planet Earth. It is warmth and love and life everlasting. Did it ever dawn on you to analyze or to look at or to consider the motives of the alien hybrid Europeans always trying to block out the sun? Whether they're doing chemtrails, whether they're doing artificial cloud inversions, whether they're doing microwave technology to cause weather changes, to keep shadows and clouds and rain. Why is it that the alien hybrid European keeps trying to block out the sun? Doesn't the sun love all that's on the earth? Why is the sun constantly creating mutations with the mutant hybrid alien European? That's why you see me lately, because people are confusing this thing. You know, you can just safely say Europeans because they were under the authority of Queen Europa after the hybriding of Patagonia. And they were taken to Patmos and then taken to the land of Angles. And so the people, we just say Europeans, but they are Albion hybrids. Let's get over it. It's not a condemnation, it's just the truth. Face reality. They hate the sun. The sun gives them mutants. They're called the leper. That you see in the Bible, the lesions that are all white, we took them behind the rock. That's the Caucasus Mountains because of the lesions on their skin. That's the leprechaun. We ain't talking about Ireland, the leprechaun. That's kind of a story to tell you what the real life is. So what we're doing, we're trying to solve these problems with humanity. We having problems with the hybrid. The hybrid's trying to kill off humanity.
Interesting point. The so-called coronavirus,
which means crown or sun,
right, is
multi-layered
susceptible to the sun, and it seems like over the last month or so, I have seen so little sun, like the sun is being...
They're attacking the sun because the sun is a purifier. The Son of God is killing them. The sun arises with healing in his wings. That's why Trump is saying when it gets warm, it will kill the virus. They're the virus. I keep telling people they are the virus. It's not only bigger than what you think, it's multi-layered and multi-dimensional.
Somebody's asking the question. This is a question we addressed last night, but we weren't online. So someone asked why our ancestors created the hybrids, and you know,
we're not a total creator.
Okay.
What we do.
We did some stuff.
Now, all right. So now, with those of you who know, I know some of you who are researchers and archaeologists and sociologists go into some of what they call the forbidden knowledge. And they talk about the cities in Mexico where they allowed the cities to grow over, and you don't see them having what you call world tours into the Yucatan and telling the people about those scientific complexes in the jungles of the Yucatan that they never tore down. Oh, yeah. Many of the experiments of the hybriding took place there, and the technology, and it included not just with human and animal, it also dealt with plants. Plants.
Yeah, we talked about this.
Now, let's give you another instance, and I'm giving these references for people who find it difficult to handle, you know, being unplugged from the matrix, which means womb,
right?
False mother. That's what we're dealing with,
right?
Part of the experiments with enzymes from the plant life was to counter the pungent odors and problems that they had with the sebaceous glands, the removal of the hair from the Pongidae, or Anthropopithecus, which is the monkey that Darwin and other German naturalists talk about. Now, if you'll notice, and this is the truth, but not to be taken negative, remember, this is just simply the fact. Many of the alien heterogeneous hybrid species that have limited Asiatic African blood in them, they can get out of a shower 1 hour, and within an hour, you'll think your pet dog walked in the room, because the sebaceous glands are still active. Even sebaceous glands, do some research. Sebaceous glands creates the oil for the hair. They're still active. And a lot of our people don't understand that. They recognize that, but they don't understand its origin. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
Many people, and that knowledge is not given to you to use negatively. You don't put the hybrid down for that. That's just the nature of its experience, of its being. The other problem that you have that they don't want to talk about, and this is why when you go into the congressional records, you'll see a lot of, you'll see, for some of you who are finding this stuff out now in recent years, why certain information was not allowed in the hands of some of these Moors unless they have certificates, copyright certificates, some of which is known as Order of the Great Seal. And some of the people were not to have that information without certificates. Right? Now, the deal of it is, certain things, if the people knew logically, it would change their images of how they see the world. Not only that, some people who may not act intelligently or fairly, and it creates other problems. Mm-hmm. So some things are not said because people, it's not that they couldn't be ready for it. They've been groomed in a false platform society. And as truth comes out, some people may crack from it. Some people may get hostile, and disorder doesn't benefit anyone. However, things are they're in disorder now, and so it's like you know, Pandora's box is open.
But
may as well start telling the truth.
Be that as it may, by this time there's been so much amalgamation that that's
why it was done.
Okay.
Trying to solve the problem.
All right.
Let's give, all right, we've opened another can of baked beans.
Not worms.
Yeah, and they ain't the pork and beans, it's baked beans. So let's talk. With the original hybrid experiments in the Yucatan, there are certain immediate problems that came about that was recognized by the dominant 12 cycle scientists, who were women really, and then one lead scientist known as Yakub. And most of the people who study the history will always direct to Dr. Yakub Cushitis. However, they keep forgetting that the 12 women scientists, the major scientists of the old Moabite nation, whose rulership is at the heart of the Yucatan. And you're dealing back into history, and keep in mind what you're calling Africa right now, which is Asia Sol, South Asia, was in the heart, or right in what you call now the Gulf of Mexico, before the Great Cocos Plate split. So let's get the geography together too.
Talking about Pangea, right?
Yes. And now, so you're also talking about Hammurabi. You're also talking about Aunt Hagar, etc. Now, some and many don't want to get into that area because of the sensitivity of it. That's why sometimes Yakub is also referred to as the father of the devil. Mm-hmm. Because what it is suspected is that, and that's not talked about much, is that with the experience and experiments, he also did some of them with some genetic coding from some off-world beings that had less than the best interest of us. And they'll talk about the hybriding, but they don't talk about that part.
I asked you this last night. When we see some of the hieroglyphs, the picture, the engravings, you'll see the body of the lower part of a man with, let's say, head of a jackal, or you'll see we see minotaurs and centaurs and so many different beings in these various mythological depictions. Are they always myths that we're seeing?
Some is and some is not.
Okay.
So
the griffins and the different,
And so it doesn't get, so we don't get too in the mud with this with people. Let's try to keep this kind of simple. When people look at the altering of the Septuaginta and the altering of the Bible.
Speaking of the Septuaginta, there's a question here about what was the best Bible to buy. So since you mentioned,
if you want the best Bible to buy, you want to go, if you want to go back and find and get associated with people of Sabian, Mesopotamia, Eritrean, Ethiopia, Egypt, and get a Coptic Bible. If you don't have Coptic,
C-O-P-T-I-C.
yeah, Coptic, you can do also K.
Okay.
Coptic, because everything that you've gotten outside of that venue is extremely modified, edited, and translated out, O-U-T, of the original culture and the original traditions, absent of the science in it, the magic that's in it, chemistry, alchemy that's in it, spiritual Kundalini development that's in it, that is not even exposed in your King James, Gideon, and other versions of Constantine's order that's presented to the world in the name of Christianity. Now, for those who because we're getting off, I don't want to get too far off with you, look up Niceno-Constantinopolitan Creed. That's what the people have been getting all across the modern world, and they have been calling it Christianity. Well, they've been worshiping Constantine, the hybrid alien Romans hiding behind the code word Jesus.
We had a couple of people,
and that's the truth.
A couple of comments where somebody said the Egyptian Book of the Dead. Someone else said the Geneva Bible.
Yes. But you got to go. Let's cut through the chase. Until we, from an honored position of scholarship, start going to the primal base origin
Masoretic
principles, you're getting played. It doesn't mean that we can't get something out of them books. But number one, as an example, they'll tell the people about ancient Egypt, ancient Mesopotamia, ancient Eritrea. When they talk about Garden of Eden and stuff, they'll talk about Ethiopia. They'll talk about Greece, etc. And won't tell you that all that culture is derivative of the same thing. It's the ancient Sabian Gnostic knowledge. It has one solid root, but then they won't teach the Gnosticism. You see the point? That is the root. That is not a part of it. That is the root.
See, I have a Gnostic Bible right there.
Yes.
And a Septuagint.
But even now, that would imply that the scholars that do that, that would imply that someone's who's consciously trying to take the people comfortably a little bit more to the truth, and understand when they do that, they're going against the grain, and they know it too. Because keep in mind, when you start telling the truth about the Gnostic Saba foundation of all this religion, guess what? The people who've been telling you about religion will attack you.
Well, even the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary.
Same thing.
Yeah.
The same thing. Because soon as you go into it, it's going to take you back to its Kabbalistic root. And you will see that even the way people look at the word angel and the different people that they look as men are metaphysical principles.
Angles.
They're forces and powers.
Mm-hmm.
But now the priesthood know this, but you know and I know they don't teach that. You know doggone well, you could take 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, take the average person that's been going to church all their lives and take them through a metaphysical Bible, and half of them, their whole flat platform will fall out from under them. Because now they're being erudite in what they thought they knew. Now they know what they know. Now they know that Reverend Pigfoot not only shouldn't be eating pigs and selling pigfoot sandwiches to them, raise church for money for the church. They start finding out that them people wasn't a friend of the one they called Jesus like they think. And they've been really working for Rome. It gets very uncomfortable. This is, once you start really studying for real and getting to serious scholarship and removing your biases and start looking for truth, believe me, the bottom falls out in most of the institutions on this planet. The bottoms will fall out, and you'll understand why the world is in trouble. You'll understand why the people are poor. You'll understand why women are struggling with children, and half the men are in jail and half of them is homosexual, that they're being attacked. You'll understand why they're broke. You'll understand why they're being plugged with mercury and why their children got Down syndrome. All your chronic sicknesses, 90% of them comes from getting vaccines from these Romans who have been pretending to be your friend in government. And the people in their heart of hearts know it. The problem, this is what has happened. The problem that we have now, this stuff has gotten so bad that the people have been so negligent. We've been negligent to ourselves that we're really afraid that we have no remedy. And we're reaching out for straws. And I say, don't do that, because what you need to know, your mother brought you here with. You need to reconnect with it. That's all. Mm-hmm. And I know it's difficult, but this is the deal. When the Bible talks about render unto Caesar what is Caesar, Caesar is a symbolism for Rome, not Roma, for Rome. And that is the heterogeneous hybrid that has some of that alien genes in them, who's been not friendly to humanity. And they've pretended to be your gods in many forms. Get over it. You've been had. And the deal of it is, you're still here. You have intelligence. You have divine intelligence. Use it. In the sort of like people, I think what has happened to many of us is that we've been so busy putting our faith in things outside ourselves that we don't have faith in ourselves, and therefore are unable to tap to the divine source that's actually always been in us. We're still subconsciously looking outside to try to gain it. It's not going to happen.
I posted the other day, my favorite preacher was Reverend Ike, who was saying exactly the same thing, 50 years ago, that if you're looking for God outside yourself, you're never going to find God. And that's the delusion, and that's the distraction, the great distraction.
And it's uncomfortable
that people have, because we've always wanted to have someone, we've looked at ourselves as less than perfect or great, so there has to be something or something greater than us that we can depend on, when all the time we were created. And I always say that we are God in a sense. We know about God, where the word came from, but if you look at God, what we know it means, we are God experiencing itself in the flesh.
Now
when God came down in the flesh, this is the flesh God came down in. Mm-hmm. And every time someone comes through the womb, it is an experience that the divine creator is having, that may be different. It's going to be different from person to person, but it's still all one.
Yes.
It's a one experience that is like of, you know, what they say, thousands of points of light.
Yes.
Coming from one being.
Yes.